Alright, so welcome to Jumbo IS and welcome to our lecture series called Daily News in Shorts. In this lecture series, we cover that day's newspaper in a very short span of time, within 20 minutes. Now, today is Monday, July 8th, 2024, and we will cover today's newspaper in 20 minutes. Okay? We will do a quick revision so that you can revise your current affairs for today. And if you have read the newspaper, well, that's good. You'll be able to revise it. But if you have not read today's newspaper, well, then you don't need to read today's newspaper because we'll be covering all the important news items in this lecture. All right. Now, without further introduction, let's start with our newspaper for today. And before that, let's take a look at the important topics that featured in today's newspaper. So today's topics were the following. Number one, Digital Bharat Nidhi. Now, Department of Telecommunication actually has released draft rules for this fund called Digital Bharat Nidhi. So what is this fund? Which fund has it replaced? What are going to be the benefits of this fund? We'll talk about everything in detail. Then recently a very catastrophic phenomena has occurred in the Arctic region called Arctic wildfires. The forests have caught fire and there have been a lot of fires in this region. This has been the result of global warming and it will further accentuate global warming. So what are Arctic wildfires? What are the major causes behind this event? And what can be its consequences? Though, let me tell you in advance, severe consequences are there in the future. Anyway, there was this another article in Indian Express newspaper with respect to Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. So we'll cover Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. And again from Indian Express, in the explained section of Indian Express, there was this article on crackdown on food businesses. Various street food vendors, restaurants. Well, Karnataka government has recently initiated an inquiry and initiated a crackdown on these food outlets. So what is this all about? We'll talk about this in detail. Okay, so without further ado, let's start with topic number one, that is Digital Bharat Nidhi. All right. Now, what is basically Digital Bharat Nidhi? First of all, why this Digital Bharat Nidhi was in news? Look, Department of Telecommunication on July 4th released draft rules. Now, you need to understand what we mean by draft rules. The word draft means that these rules are not finalized yet. Department of Telecommunication has released these rules for further discussion. These are not final rules. Okay, but these are Department of Telecommunications rules nonetheless. Okay, now these draft rules were released to operationalize Digital Bharat Nidhi. Now, what is Digital Bharat Nidhi? Look, back in 2003, when telecom sector was just going up, taking off. Okay, Government of India actually launched Universal Service Obligation Fund. Okay, Universal Service Obligation Fund. Now, what is this Universal Service Obligation Fund? Now, all the telecom operators in our country would pay 5% of their annual or adjusted gross revenue. 5% of their revenue they will contribute towards this fund, and government would use this fund to build infrastructure for telecommunications in remote areas. So the basic purpose of this fund, Universal Service Obligation Fund, was that government should provide telecom services in underserved areas. Okay. Now, this Digital Bharat Nidhi would replace Universal Service Obligation Fund. Okay. Now, you know the purpose of Universal Service Obligation Fund. Its purpose is simple: to fund the expansion of telecom networks in remote and rural areas. Okay, where private companies actually refrain from investing. Right? So government would do that. Where would the money come from in this fund? Well, it would come from a 5% kind of tax paid by telecom operators, and 5% of what? Adjusted gross revenue. Now, this Digital Bharat Nidhi would replace USOF, and Digital Bharat Nidhi is actually an updated version of USOF. Okay, it will have a wider scope than USOF. Now, how will this USOF work? How will it work? So look, as per the recent draft rules, remember, these are draft rules yet. These are not finalized. But as per these draft rules, as per Telecom Act, contribution made to Digital Bharat Nidhi will first be credited to Consolidated Fund of India, which is Government of India's fund. And then from time to time, as the need arises, money would be credited from Consolidated Fund of India or debited from Consolidated Fund of India to this Digital Bharat Nidhi from time to time. Now, this Digital Bharat Nidhi, the money or the funds in this Digital Bharat Nidhi would be utilized to finance projects. What sort of projects? Projects that provide telecom services in remote areas. Okay. For that, the government will appoint an administrator who would appoint Digital Bharat Nidhi implementers. So, Digital Bharat Nidhi implementers would be these private persons who would receive money for providing digital services or telecom services in remote areas. Okay. Now, administrator would be the in charge of all the projects, and for each project, there would be an implementer who would be selected through an auction or bidding. Okay. Now, what will be the money used for? Digital Bharat Nidhi money usage. Now, funds collected under DBN will be used to support universal service through, first of all, delivery of telecom services in underserved rural, remote, and urban areas, and to underserved population as well, like women, disabled people with disabilities, socio-economic weaker sections. Plus, the money will also be utilized to finance research and development of telecom services, new technologies, new products. It will also support pilot projects, consultancy assistance, and advisory support for improving connectivity again in remote areas or areas where the telecom services are not that widespread. Okay. And introduction of telecom services, technology, and products in new areas. Okay. So this is what Digital Bharat Nidhi is. Again, money into this Digital Bharat Nidhi would come from a 5% charge on adjusted gross revenue of private telecom operators, okay, private and all the other companies which operate in the telecom sector. The money collected will be used for these projects, okay. And there will be an administrator as per the recent draft rules. There will be an administrator who will be in charge of these projects, and this administrator will appoint a DBN implementer, okay. The DBN implementers would implement particular projects. Okay, that's about it. Now let's move on to next news item, which is very bad news for climate change: Arctic wildfires. Now you guys know what Arctic region is, all right? Very cold region. Now, for the third time in past 5 years, high intensity forest fires have erupted in the region. Now, this news was given by Europe's Copernicus Climate Change Service. Now, what is Europe's Copernicus Climate Change Service? So, European Union, actually European Space Agency, has a satellite network. Okay, and this satellite network is known as Copernicus network. Okay, Copernicus. Now, this satellite network actually provides information. What type of information? Meteorological information or weather-based information. And it serves Europe. So, weather-based information for Europe. All right. Now, as per Copernicus Climate Change Services, there have been a lot of wildfires in the Arctic region, very cold region, Arctic region. And in the past 5 years, the latest one has been the third fire. Now, majority of fires were in Russia, okay, Sakha region of Russia, and there have been more than 160 wildfires, which actually destroyed 460,000 hectares of land. Now, Arctic region has two types of forests or vegetation, okay. One is known as boreal forests. Okay, this is also known as taiga region. And the other is tundra region. This tundra region has no trees. Okay. Now, these wildfires have taken place in both these regions, but majorly in boreal forests. Okay. The June monthly total carbon emissions from wildfires are the third highest of the past 2 decades. Now, these forest wildfires actually burn a lot of organic matter, and because of that, carbon dioxide is released into the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas. So this wildfire alone was the third largest contributor of greenhouse gases if we are comparing wildfires. Okay, third highest of the past 2 decades of wildfires. This has contributed the third largest amount of greenhouse gases, 6.8 megatons of carbon. Okay, now what were the main causes behind this? Look, Arctic wildfires are a natural phenomena. They do occur. But because of global warming in recent times, their frequency and their region of impact or their scale has increased. So their frequency has increased. That means more wildfires take place. Okay. And their scale has also increased. That means it is now impacting more pieces of land and a bigger chunk of area. Now, what are the three main causes behind it? Number one is, well, global warming. Now, look, global warming is taking place on the entire planet, but Arctic region is getting particularly warmer, more warmer as compared to other regions. In fact, since 1980, Arctic region has become 3 degrees Celsius more warm. Okay. Now, because of global warming, lightning, the frequency of lightning has also increased. And because of this lightning, well, forests catch fire. Plus, there are conditions of heat waves also in this region, because what happens is that when temperatures rise, there is this phenomena, geographical phenomena, which you'll read about in geography classes. There is this phenomena called polar jet stream. If this polar jet stream is moving at its normal pace, well, then Arctic region doesn't get that warm. But because of global warming, rising temperatures, soaring temperatures, the speed of these polar jet streams has reduced, which has contributed towards heat wave like conditions in the Arctic region. So, this has made the region more warm, therefore, more lightning, more fires, more greenhouse gas emissions, more warming. So, it's kind of a vicious cycle. Okay. Now, Copernicus Climate Change Services have also predicted that these wildfires would get worse in the coming future. The future looks pretty bleak. They say that by 2050, it is estimated that wildfires in the Arctic and around the world could increase by 1/3. That means 33% increase in Arctic wildfires by 2050. Now, this statistic was given by World Wide Fund (WWF). Okay. Now, if more Arctic wildfires take place, well, forests would get burned, right? And what gets burned in forests? Well, organic matter, right? Trees, organic waste, right? Organic matter gets burned. And when organic matter gets burned, a lot of carbon and its oxides, carbon oxides, get released into the atmosphere. Now, this release of carbon in the atmosphere actually leads to global warming, right? And because of global warming, more wildfire incidents would take place, which would lead to more burning of organic matter, more carbon oxides in the atmosphere, more global warming, and this cycle would go on and on and on. Okay, so it's a vicious cycle. Now, if Arctic wildfires take place, then what are the sources of carbon and its oxide emission? Well, sources of carbon emissions from Arctic. First of all, organic matter, when it gets burned, well, it releases a lot of carbon and its oxides, so greenhouse gases or carbon oxides would get released. Plus, there is this thing called permafrost. Now, what is permafrost? Look, the layer of soil in the Arctic region remains frozen throughout the year. Okay, it's an underground layer. Okay, the soil of the Arctic region is made up of various layers. So, the underground layer of the Arctic soil is frozen throughout the year, and that layer is known as permafrost. Now, this permafrost has a lot of carbon trapped in it. A lot of carbon is trapped in it. Okay, and if Arctic wildfires become that frequent, then the upper layer of the soil would get eroded, and this permafrost would be surfaced, right? And when this permafrost would get surfaced, then this frozen layer would start to melt, which would lead to the emission of this trapped carbon in the atmosphere, which would further lead to global warming. Okay, so because of Arctic wildfires, permafrost might get melted, trapped carbon might get released, which would again lead to global warming. It is said that around 1700 billion metric tons of carbon is trapped in permafrost of the Arctic region. Now, 1700 billion metric ton is 51 times, yes, that's correct, 51 times the amount of greenhouse gases that gets emitted due to burning of fossil fuels in 1 year. So, in 2019, the amount of greenhouse gases that got emitted due to burning of fossil fuels, petrol, diesel, coal, from the entire world, well, 1700 billion metric ton is 51 times that. So that means if the entire carbon trapped in the permafrost region gets released, well, that would be 51 times of greenhouse gas emissions released due to burning of fossil fuels in 1 year. That's a lot of carbon that would contribute a lot towards global warming. So it's a kind of news that actually foretells doomsday-like scenario, right? So it is very bad news. Any which way. Let's move to third news item, which is Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. It is basically a crop insurance scheme for farmers. Okay? And government has given this crop insurance scheme for farmers so that farmers are protected from the vulnerabilities they face. Okay? Now, recently, general insurance companies reduced their exposure to crop insurance under PM Fasal Bima Yojana. So, general insurance companies in India have reduced their coverage of insurance under this government scheme. Despite the fact that government is actually pushing insurance coverage in the farm sector, government wants more and more farmers to be covered under these insurance schemes, but these insurance companies are actually reducing their exposure. Okay, and it's not the case with private insurance companies. Actually, government controlled insurance companies are doing that. AIC, New India Insurance, Oriental Insurance, and SBI General Insurance companies, they have reduced their exposure. Okay, so this is not good news again for the farm sector, for government, because if farmers are not covered under very different insurance schemes, well, under any vulnerability or any natural hazard or artificial hazard which impacts the crops or yield of farmers, well, farmers would stand to lose. So they need to be protected through various insurance schemes. Now, what is Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana? We should know about this also, okay, because it is in news now. So, this scheme provides a comprehensive insurance cover against failure of crop, thus helping in stabilizing the income of farmers. And it also provides a kind of safety net to farmers. Farmers feel more secure, and because they are secure, so their risk taking ability also increases. Now, when their risk taking ability increases, well, farmers can take risks with new technologies, innovative technologies, which would improve their yield in future. So these insurance schemes not only they stabilize the income of farmers, they also allow farmers, they provide them with a safety net to innovate in their farm practices. So insurance is very important. Okay. Now PMFBY has a wide coverage. It covers around 4 crore farmers with more than 50 different crops, and that is just in financial year 2024, which is 2023-24. Now, this scheme is actually made compulsory for those farmers who have taken loan under different government schemes. So, like Kisan Credit Card Scheme, crop loan. So, any farmer which has taken a loan, for them this scheme is compulsory. So, loany farmers, government has made it compulsory for them. For non-loany farmers who have not taken any loan, well, for them the scheme is voluntary. So, remember this fact, okay? You might get stuck in an MCQ related to Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. Therefore, just remember this. Scheme is compulsory for loany farmers. For non-loany farmers, it is voluntary. Okay. Government also launched an initiative called AID, Agriculture and Farm Welfare. Okay. App for intermediary enrollment. Now, through this app, government is trying to expand the coverage of in these insurance schemes. Okay, so Ministry of Agriculture and Farmer Welfare launched AID, which allows intermediaries, insurance agents, to enroll non-loany farmers for whom this scheme is voluntary. Okay, so government wants to enroll these farmers under the schemes because government wants that farmers should be protected. All types of farmers should be protected against any risks. All right. So to expand this scheme, government has launched this app. Plus, what are the benefits of this scheme for the farmers? Well, government has said that farmers don't need to pay that much of premium under this scheme. Okay, the maximum limit for premium to be paid to get covered under this scheme has been fixed. So there is a ceiling to the amount of premium that the farmer has to pay. Okay, the premium is divided into 3 categories. For kharif crops, okay, the premium is fixed at 2%. For rabi crops, and that's very low, the premium is fixed at 1.5%. And for horticulture crops, commercial crops, the premium is fixed at 5%. Okay, so the farmers only have to pay this much premium. The rest of the premium amount will be paid by the government to the insurance companies. So farmers, there is not a lot of financial burden on farmers to get these insurance schemes. Government has taken care of that. Okay, so more and more farmers should be enrolled under this scheme, and government is taking a lot of care. But despite this push by the government, general insurance companies are opting for not providing crop insurance schemes. Okay, they have reduced their coverage. All right. Now let's move on to our last news item, which is crackdown on food businesses. Now, recently, Karnataka's Food Safety Department has cracked down on sellers of many street foods, such as gobi Manchurian, pani puri, cotton candy, chicken kebab. So, all these street food vendors, food restaurants who are selling these food items, well, Karnataka has come down heavily on these food businesses. Now, why? Now, this statewide crackdown is against the use of artificial food coloring. Many lab reports have suggested that the artificial food coloring agents used in these food items are carcinogenic, and it causes a lot of health problems. Many have complained getting these health problems after eating food from a particular outlet. So Karnataka's Food Safety Department has taken note of this, and they have actually issued notices to these food businesses. Now, the samples tested by Food Safety Department revealed that the food items contained artificial coloring agents. Now, what are the names of these artificial coloring agents? You need to remember this for your science and tech. Okay. Tartrazine, sunset yellow, rhodamine B, brilliant blue. These are the examples of food coloring agents. So, for example, rhodamine B actually gives red color. Okay, brilliant blue gives blue color, sunset yellow gives haldi like or turmeric, not turmeric, haldi like yellow color. Okay, so these are food coloring agents, but various health experts have said that these are carcinogenic. That means they are cancer causing. Now, what sort of health damage do we expect from these artificial food coloring agents? So, artificial coloring agents can cause cancer, diabetes, kidney failure, and other complications. One such coloring agent is rhodamine B, which gives red color. Actually, rhodamine B is also used as a dye, synthetic dye for coloring textiles. So, imagine something that is used as a dye to color your clothes is being put in your food as well. Definitely it is going to cause health problems, and these restaurants, these food outlets use these artificial food coloring agents indiscriminately. Okay, exposure to the dye may damage the eye, irritate the respiratory tract. Okay, and the other food coloring agents may even cause cancer. Now remember this fact, I've shared this photo for a particular reason. Okay, now 7th of June every year is celebrated as World Food Safety Day by United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization. So remember this date. Okay, now what sort of legal challenge has been posed to these food business outlets? Okay, what sort of legal action has the government taken against these food outlets? So to take legal action against these food business organization outlets selling unsafe food items, the Food Safety Department has to collect two kinds of samples. Okay, so for taking any legal action they need proof. So for that they take two kinds of sample. Number one is survey sample. If anything wrong is found out in this survey sample, then 4 different samples are collected from each restaurant, which are known as legal samples. Okay, these legal samples are sent to an institute, Central Food Technology Research Institute. Okay, Central Food Technology Research Institute. It is in Mysore. So after collecting these legal samples are sent to CFTRI, which is in Mysore, and if CFTRI certifies that this sample is unfit for human consumption, well then that particular food business outlet is booked under Food Safety Act. So criminal action might be taken against them or a fine might be imposed. Okay, and with that we conclude today's session. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and I'm sure it has added value to your preparation, though it would add more value if you are consistent with this lecture series, you watch it regularly. Alright then, that would be all from my side. I will sign off and I will see you next time with the newspaper of June 9th. Thank you, everyone.